With common assessments, you're able to look at the report just like you would any of your other assessments, and the reports are going to break down just like they did with any of the other assessments that we've created previously. However, I'm also going to be able to look at my PLC Data Team tab and see a comparative analysis among all of the teachers that gave this particular assessment. So I'm going to expand this demo common assessment. And the first report we're greeted with is just a compilation of all the different teachers in their classes, what the overall class average was, what the campus average was for this assessment, and if this was a district implementation, this would show us what the district average was for this assessment as well. And I can set the proficiency level on this, so if we were expecting a 90% or higher proficiency level, I could set that. If this was new material and I was more interested in, say, a 50% proficiency level, I could change that also. In my standards analysis, we only had one standard that we were working with on this particular assessment, and it's going to show us our overall comprehension as a group for this particular concept. Now, in the item analysis, it's going to break up just like we saw in the other reports, except that now I'm looking at each one of the teachers and their classes. And if I want to go into greater detail in any of those classes, I can simply click on the class name and see what the individual student responses were. I'm going to go back, and you'll also notice that just like in the other report, you're not just getting an item analysis, but it's also showing you which standard was associated with that particular item. Now, when we go and look at this as a group, we're going to see that question 4 is probably a good candidate for some review. And in particular, Ms. Yeager and Mr. Bloom are probably going to want to confer with Ms. Garner and Ms. Henley on how they taught that particular concept or how they addressed that particular question. Now, in the student analysis, we're able to see what the different standards were, and in this case there was only one standard, so I'm looking at each one of these classes and the teachers, and I can see what the overall class performance was. So when we have our conversation on this concept in general, we might want to pick Ms. Henley's brain to find out what examples she may have used and what questions she may have asked to help them prep for this common assessment. Now, this list here is going to give a list of all the students that took the assessment, and again, we can sort that by weakest to strongest or strongest to weakest. So if you're doing any tutoring, this makes a very easily sortable list so you know who needs to be worked with on what.